Arlen Voss wiped his hands on his uniform and looked up at the ceiling panels above him. The station was huge, more like a city in space than a building. Lights glowed softly and machines hummed. Most aliens on the station avoided the upper levels. It was quiet here, too quiet. That's why Arlen was nervous. He had only been on the station for a week, and already he had learned that humans were small and strange here. Most of the aliens were taller, faster, and smarter in ways he could not understand. Yet here he was, checking maintenance lines in a sector no one cared to visit. He leaned over a panel and tapped it lightly. The metal was cold under his fingers. Then he heard it. A soft sound. A breath, almost like a sigh, coming from above. He froze. No machine made that sound. No air vent could hum like that. It was alive. Arlen pressed his ear against the panel. The sound came again, quiet, shaky, afraid. His heart pounded in his chest. What is that?" he whispered to himself. He climbed a ladder into the crawlspace above. The narrow corridor was dark and dusty. Every step made the metal creak under his weight. His flashlight flickered on, casting small shadows on the walls. Then he saw it. A pair of glowing eyes in the corner. Small, round, and golden. They blinked at him. Arlen froze. The eyes belonged to something small, covered in thin scales that shimmered even in the dim light. Its body was curled tightly as if trying to make itself invisible. He could see tiny wings folded against its back, torn and weak. Its tail flicked nervously. Every instinct in Arlen screamed to run. But something inside him, something he could not name, held him still. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, almost a whisper. The creature flinched at the sound of his voice, but it did not run. It only trembled. Arlen's breath shook as he looked closer. It was a dragon. Not one of the massive ones the stories warned about. This one was small, fragile, and very young. Yet even in its fear there was a strange presence. A spark of something old, something dangerous, something powerful waiting to grow. Arlen knew the rules. Dragons were forbidden. They were extinct, or at least that's what the galaxy had decided. Any human who reported seeing one could face punishment. Any alien would not hesitate to destroy it. Yet here it was, hiding above the ceiling, injured and alone. He reached out slowly, careful not to scare it. "I won't hurt you," he said. The dragon flinched and he froze his hand in the air. Then he remembered the stories his mother had told him as a child. Dragons were not born monsters. They learned fear and anger from the world. Perhaps kindness could reach them too. Arlen gathered a small supply of rations he had in his bag. He laid it carefully near the creature. It watched, curious but hesitant. He spoke to it again, softly, telling it about Earth, about the stars, about being small in a big universe. The creature cocked its head, listening. It was not used to kindness and it did not know what to do with it. But it listened. Hours passed. The station was silent around him, the hum of machines like a distant heartbeat. Arlen stayed with the dragon, talking quietly. He did not try to touch it. He only spoke, only showed that he meant no harm. And slowly, the trembling in its small body began to ease. Its breathing became calmer. Its golden eyes lost some of their panic and curiosity grew instead. Arlen learned its patterns. The creature slept during long stretches, hiding in the corner, but woke when it heard his voice. It did not hiss. It did not roar. It only watched. And when he moved closer, it did not run away. It had not yet trusted him, but it had stopped expecting pain. That was something no one had done in centuries. He thought about what it might feel like to hide all your life, knowing that anyone could kill you at any moment. A warmth rose in his chest, stronger than fear. He wanted to protect this little creature, no matter the danger. He whispered again, "You're safe here. I promise." The dragon twitched its ears, or what could be called ears, and blinked at him slowly. The hours turned into the station's night cycle. Lights dimmed and machines quieted further. Other humans were asleep in their quarters. No one came near. Arlen stayed, watching and speaking, imagining that if anyone came and found him with the dragon, he would explain carefully. No lies. Just the truth, that this creature was not a threat. Not yet. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from the corridor outside the crawlspace. Arlen's heart jumped. The dragon crouched lower, curling even tighter. Its tail flicked rapidly. He froze. Footsteps approached. Heavy, mechanical footsteps. An alien patrol. Arlen held his breath. The patrol passed without looking up. Their sensors were weak here, or maybe they were just careless. Arlen exhaled slowly. The dragon relaxed slightly, but only for a moment. It still trembled. He touched the floor gently, not daring to move toward it. "It's okay," he whispered again. "They won't find you here." Alone once more, Arlen realized something. This dragon was not just a hidden relic. It was alive. It was aware. And it had chosen to listen to him. That small choice, that moment of trust, was more powerful than any weapon he had ever imagined. He felt a shiver of wonder and fear run through him. He settled in for the night in the crawlspace, careful not to make a sound. He kept talking softly about his home, about dreams, about hope. The dragon listened. Occasionally, it made a small sound of its own, a soft hiss or squeak, almost like a word, almost like a reply. By the time the station's lights brightened for the next day, something had changed. The dragon was still small and injured, still wary, but it had moved slightly closer to Arlen. It had not yet come out fully, but it no longer flinched when he spoke. And for the first time, Arlen understood the truth. The galaxy feared dragons not because they were born monsters, but because no one had ever tried to speak to them. He smiled softly, feeling a strange courage rising inside him. Whatever happened next, he would protect this little creature. Whatever the rules, whatever the laws, he had found something precious. Something alive. Something that needed him. And now he would not let it down. Above the ceiling, hidden from everyone, the dragon blinked at him. Its golden eyes caught the first light of the station cycle. And for the first time, in a place that feared dragons, a small human and a small dragon shared a moment of peace. Arlen had never felt such fear and wonder at the same time. The dragon above the ceiling was small, but even in its weakness, it radiated power. He had read the history files, watched the hollow records. Dragons had once ruled parts of the galaxy, destroying worlds with fire and fury. Entire fleets had been burned before they could respond. Every species had learned to fear them. That was why dragons were forbidden. That was why their existence was supposed to be impossible. And yet, here one was hiding above the ceiling, trembling but alive. He sat quietly beside the crawlspace opening, careful not to make sudden movements. The dragon watched him with cautious golden eyes. Its small wings twitched nervously. Its tail flicked once, then twice. Arlen remembered the stories of young dragons being aggressive, biting anyone who came near. But this one did not attack. It only curled in fear. Arlen's mind raced. How had it survived here? The upper levels of the station were not designed for life. The panels were tight, dusty, and cold. No food. No water. Yet somehow, it had hidden and survived. That meant it was clever. That meant it could survive for days without help. That meant it could fight back if it needed to. He carefully pulled a small pack from his bag. He had a few rations meant for himself. He set them near the dragon. It watched, curious but did not move. He whispered, "You can eat. I won't hurt you." Its breathing remained fast, but it did not flee. Slowly, it lowered its head toward the food, sniffing lightly. Arlen held his breath. One wrong move and it could vanish, or worse, attack. But it did not. It ate, small bites at a time, all while keeping its eyes on him. Hours passed, and Arlen spoke softly, telling stories of Earth, of sunlight, of rain, of children running and laughing. He spoke about small things, ordinary things, because he knew that fear came from power, but comfort came from the familiar. The dragon listened. Its ears, or what passed for years, twitched at every sound. Every word seemed to calm it. Slowly it began to stretch, unfurling its tiny wings. They were torn, one slightly bent, but even damaged, they glimmered with a strange energy. Then the memories came back to him. The hollow records showed dragons as weapons, monsters, unstoppable forces of destruction. Entire cities had fallen. Fleets had burned. Families had vanished. And yet here, in the shadow of the station ceiling, was one small dragon, afraid and fragile. Arlen realized something important. Dragons were not born killers. They became killers when the world treated them as monsters. Fear made them dangerous. Kindness could make them calm. He reached out slowly, palm open, careful not to make sudden movements. The dragon flinched but did not attack. Arlen whispered, "It's okay. You don't have to fight." Its golden eyes met his. And for the first time, there was something different in those eyes. Not fear. Not aggression. Curiosity. Hesitant, small but curiosity. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang in the station. Arlen froze. His heart pounded. The dragon shrank back into the corner. Footsteps rushed from the corridor outside the crawlspace. Security teams were moving fast. Someone must have triggered a sensor. He looked down at the creature. It trembled violently, tiny claws digging into the metal floor. It had never heard alarms before. It did not understand. Arlen did not panic. He had to think fast. He whispered quickly, "Stay here. Don't move." He placed his hand gently on the floor between them, showing that he was not a threat. The dragon's breathing slowed slightly. He crawled backward, keeping his eyes on it, waiting for the footsteps to pass. The patrol entered the sector, scanners glowing. "Check the upper panels," one ordered. Arlen held his breath. The dragon shrank further into the corner. His tiny body shook. The patrol moved slowly, shining lights near the crawlspace. Arlen kept his hand open, a silent promise of peace. The officers passed, unaware. The dragon exhaled in relief once they left. Arlen whispered, "See? They didn't see you. You're safe for now." The adrenaline faded slowly. Arlen realized that the creature above him was not just a baby. It was something everyone feared for a reason. Dragons were not just animals. They were history. They were power. They were alive. And the galaxy had forgotten how to treat them with anything other than fear. He spent the next few hours carefully observing it. The dragon began to move more freely, stepping around the food tray, flicking its wings. It hissed softly, not a sound of aggression but curiosity. It tilted its head, watching Arlen. He noticed something new. It was learning. It was learning from his voice, from his calm, from his small gestures. Each word he spoke made it bolder. Each breath it took without fear made it stronger. Arlen smiled softly. "You're not alone anymore," he said. The dragon tilted its head again, almost as if it understood. Its body relaxed slightly. Not completely, but enough that he could see a spark of hope. That spark told him everything. This small creature, hidden and forgotten, could survive if someone cared. He realized that the galaxy had misunderstood dragons all along. They were feared because they were strong, because they could destroy. But strength without understanding was chaos. The dragon above him was proof. Power alone did not make a monster. Fear alone did not make a killer. It was how the world treated them that created danger. Arlen stayed with it through the station's long night cycle. He talked quietly, fed it small scraps, and made sure it knew he meant no harm. The dragon began to respond in tiny ways, tilting its head, moving closer to the food, flicking its wings when he spoke. By the time the lights dimmed for the next cycle, it had moved several inches closer to him. Not enough to touch, but close enough to show trust. For the first time, Arlen understood the truth. The galaxy feared dragons because no one had ever tried to speak to them. They had only tried to control them. And maybe, just maybe, one human could change that. He leaned back, careful not to startle it. "Tomorrow we start again," he whispered. The dragon blinked slowly, its golden eyes catching the faint glow of the station lights. There was still fear. There was still danger. But there was also hope. And in that narrow, dark crawlspace above the station, human and dragon shared a quiet understanding. A moment that could grow into something far greater, something the galaxy had never seen before. Arlen woke early to the quiet hum of the station. He moved carefully through the crawlspace, careful not to make a sound. The dragon was awake, its golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. It was smaller than most adults would expect, but even in its tiny form, there was something ancient in the way it watched him. Every movement was deliberate, cautious, but curious. He knelt a little way from it, holding out a small packet of rations. "Good morning," he said softly. "I brought you something to eat." The dragon's ears twitched and it stepped forward slowly. It sniffed the food, then backed away, unsure. Arlen waited patiently, keeping his voice calm. "You don't have to be afraid. You're safe. I promise." For hours he spoke quietly, telling stories about Earth, about the cities, about rain falling on rooftops, about birds flying high. He told it about his family, about little things humans loved. The dragon tilted its head, listening to every word. Occasionally, it blinked or moved its wings slightly. Arlen realized that the creature did not just hear words, it felt them. The tone, the calmness, the care, it mattered more than the food, more than the space around them. The station continued its normal operations. Machines hummed. Lights flickered. Aliens walked by in the corridors below. None of them knew about the dragon above. Arlen felt a small thrill. No one had ever tried this before. Everyone feared dragons, everyone assumed they were monsters. But here, in this narrow, hidden place, he was learning something no one else had ever understood. The dragon made a small sound. A hiss? A squeak? Arlen leaned closer but stayed careful. "Yes," he whispered. "I know. You're scared. But it's okay. I'm not going anywhere." The dragon's wings twitched and it stepped a little closer. That small movement filled Arlen with hope. He smiled gently. "You see? You're stronger than you think." He realized the truth about dragons. They were not born violent. They were shaped by what they experienced. Fear made them dangerous. Kindness, patience, and understanding could shape them into something else entirely. Arlen had read the reports, whole fleets destroyed, entire worlds lost. But those dragons had not been raised with care. They had been feared, hunted, and controlled. This one, small and fragile, had never been treated like that. Yet instinct had made it defensive. And now, with patience and words, it was learning something new. By midday the dragon was moving more freely. It approached the food without hesitation, eating quickly but carefully. Arlen continued to speak softly, describing colors and sounds it had never seen. "The sky is blue," he said. "And at night it is black with stars. On Earth humans look at them and wonder what is out there. Some of us dream of flying just like you." The dragon's wings twitched at the mention of flying. Arlen smiled. "Yes, you can fly again one day. I will help you." He realized he had never felt so connected to another being. Not like this. Not someone who could understand fear and hope at the same time. He had been trained in human ways, in engineering and maintenance, but this was beyond anything he had ever learned. This was life. This was trust. And it was growing between them, word by word, sound by sound. The dragon let out another soft sound. Arlen leaned closer. "Yes," he said. "I understand. You're lonely. I'm lonely too. But we can be together just for now. You don't have to be afraid of anyone." The dragon's breathing slowed. His body relaxed a little. Its tail stopped flicking wildly. Its wings folded neatly against its back. Suddenly the alarm rang again. Arlen froze. The dragon crouched in panic, but he kept his voice calm. Stay calm. Breathe with me." He took a slow breath. Inhale, exhale. The dragon followed, not perfectly but enough to match his rhythm. Arlen realized that dragons were not just powerful, they were intelligent. They could learn from humans, from emotion, from tone. And if they did, they could choose peace instead of violence. Hours turned into night again. Arlen stayed with the dragon, moving slowly, speaking softly, showing that he meant no harm. The dragon no longer flinched at his movements. It tilted its head at him, watching, learning. Its golden eyes caught every little detail, every small movement, every word. At one point, it stepped closer than it had before, almost brushing his hand. Arlen held still, letting it decide. It lingered for a moment, then stepped back. Not yet ready to touch, but willing to be near. That small act, so simple, filled Arlen with hope. He understood then that words were stronger than fear. Words could build trust where weapons could not. Words could calm a creature that had been feared across the galaxy. Words could even save a life. He leaned back on the crawlspace floor, tired but satisfied. The dragon curled up near the rations he had brought, no longer trembling as much. Its small body glowed faintly in the dim light. Arlen whispered again softly, "You can trust me. I will protect you. We will survive this together." The dragon blinked slowly, almost as if it understood. For the first time he felt that connection fully. The creature above him, everyone's nightmare, was not just a dragon. It was a child. A scared, fragile child who had never been treated with kindness before. And he had spoken to it. He had shown it calm, patience, and words that carried hope instead of fear. Arlen realized that no one had ever tried this before. No one had ever spoken to dragons as if they were alive in their own right. The galaxy feared them, but maybe it had been wrong all along. And maybe humans, small and underestimated, could show what the universe had forgotten. That courage was not just strength. Courage was understanding. Courage was speaking to what others feared. As the night cycle ended and the station lights brightened again, the dragon stirred, moving slightly closer to him. Arlen smiled softly. Tomorrow he would speak more. Tomorrow he would teach it more about trust, about patience, about hope. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could see that dragons were not only creatures of destruction, they could be creatures of wonder, guided by kindness. In the quiet crawlspace above the station, human and dragon shared something neither had ever experienced. Words, small and soft, had begun to build a bridge across fear. And that bridge, Arlen knew, could lead to far greater things than either of them had imagined. The station was quiet, but the calm would not last. Word of the strange energy readings had reached the alien council. They did not know what it was, only that something powerful moved above the upper levels. Arlen knew it was the dragon. The small creature that had trusted him, that had learned his words, that had begun to heal, had drawn attention. He had hoped to keep it hidden, but now the patrols were different. Armed enforcers moved through the corridors, scanning every panel. Their sensors were stronger. Their instincts sharper. They had orders. Any dragon, no matter its size, was to be contained or destroyed. Arlen stood in the crawlspace looking at the dragon. It was awake, wings folded neatly, tail twitching nervously. Its golden eyes followed him everywhere. The dragon had grown slightly since he found it. Its scales glimmered faintly in the dim light. It was stronger, braver, but still small. Still vulnerable. He whispered, "They're coming? You must stay calm." The dragon hissed softly, almost a warning. It knew danger was near, even if it did not understand fully. Arlen's heart pounded. He had trained for emergencies, for system failures, for fires and leaks, but never for this. Never for standing between a living legend and the fury of the galaxy. The first patrol arrived. They were tall, armored, with scanners that glowed red. "We know something is here," one said, voice cold and mechanical. "Open the panels. Nothing survives above this sector without permission." Arlen swallowed hard. He could not let them see the dragon. "Not yet." "It's nothing," he said quickly. "Just maintenance issues. Sensors must be wrong." The patrol leader looked at him sharply. "You are human. You cannot hide this from us. Step aside." Arlen shook his head. "No. I won't. You will not hurt it." His voice was steady but his hands shook. The dragon flinched slightly behind him but did not run. It trusted him. And that was all that mattered. The patrol leader raised a weapon. "Step aside or we will remove you by force." Arlen's mind raced. He could not fight them all. He was only human, small and unarmed. But he had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. He had learned that courage was not just strength. It was understanding. It was connection. He stepped forward, placing himself between the dragon and the enforcers. "You will not harm it," he said again. The dragon moved. Slowly, carefully, it spread its wings, not to attack but to shield him. Its body glowed faintly, a soft golden light. The enforcers froze. They had never seen anything like this. A dragon, small and weak, choosing to protect a human. A child of the stars standing with a creature the galaxy feared. The patrol hesitated. The council had told them dragons were weapons, killers, monsters. They expected fire, claws, rage. But this was different. This was intelligence. This was choice. And for a moment the galaxy's oldest fear faltered. Arlen stepped closer to the dragon, whispering softly. "It's okay. I'm here. We are together. You don't need to fight." The dragon lowered its head slightly, then lifted it again. Its golden eyes met his. It understood that he was not only protecting it, but that he believed in it. And that belief gave it courage. The patrol leader glanced at his team, uncertain. "Contain it?" he barked finally. Arlen shook his head again. "No. You cannot contain something that chooses not to fight. You cannot control life with fear." The dragon shifted. Its wings rose slightly. No fire. No aggression. Just presence. It was a shield, a protector. The enforcers looked at each other. Some lowered their weapons. They had never imagined this. They had never imagined a dragon could show mercy. Arlen took a deep breath. "Do you see?" he said. "It is not a monster. It is not a weapon. It is alive and it can choose." The station fell silent. Even the machines seemed to hum differently. The enforcers did not move. The dragon stayed where it was, calm but watchful, wings slightly raised, tail coiled, eyes glowing with intelligence. It waited for a signal from Arlen. And Arlen gave it one. Trust, patience, and courage. Slowly the leader stepped back. He did not speak. He could not. He had seen what no history book had shown him. That a human, small and seemingly powerless, could stand alone and teach fear what it had never known. Arlen knelt slightly, keeping his voice calm. "We are not enemies. Not now. Not ever if we can help it. You can leave. You can protect yourself. Or you can fight. But know that I will not abandon you." The dragon's wings relaxed. It moved closer to him. Not attacking, not fleeing. Just standing by his side. It had made a choice. And Arlen had made one too. To stand, human and alone, between the creature and the galaxy's judgment. Hours later, when the enforcers finally left, Arlen remained in the crawl space. The dragon lay down near him, golden eyes half closed. Its breathing was calm. It had survived the first test. It had learned that humans could be allies, that courage could stand against power, that words could be stronger than weapons. Alone together they rested briefly. Arlen whispered, "You are safe, for now. Tomorrow we will face the world again." The dragon flicked its wings softly, almost like a nod. It understood. Not words but meaning. Not instructions but trust. In that moment, Arlen realized that humanity had a new place in the galaxy. Not because of strength, not because of numbers, not because of firepower, but because of courage, patience, and understanding. A human could stand alone. A human could protect what others feared. A human could teach life how to choose peace. And in the shadowed crawlspace above the station, a small dragon and a human shared a quiet triumph. Not a battle won, not a war ended, but a first step toward something greater. A step that could change the galaxy forever. The station was quiet now, but the air still carried tension. The council had left, confused and unsettled. They did not understand what they had seen, a human standing between a dragon and a galaxy that had feared it for centuries. They had expected chaos, fire, destruction. Instead they had seen something else: trust, patience and courage. Arlen Voss sat beside the dragon in the crawlspace. Its golden eyes watched him carefully, wings folded neatly, tail curled around its small body. It had grown stronger since the first day, but it was still young and fragile. Its scales glimmered faintly in the station light, a soft reminder that this creature had survived against every expectation. Arlen offered a small piece of food. The dragon took it, careful and deliberate. It had learned patience. It had learned that humans could be kind. Most importantly, it had learned that it could choose. That lesson, he realized, was the key to everything. In the following days, Arlen continued to care for the dragon, teaching it words, teaching it trust, teaching it calm. Every time someone approached the upper levels, the dragon hid, but it no longer trembled in terror. It had learned that danger did not always come from the world. Sometimes the world could be safe, even welcoming. The council returned eventually, this time with scientists, scholars, and legal observers. They demanded to examine the dragon, to control it, to take it away. But Arlen stood firm. "It is not a weapon," he said. "It is alive. It is learning. It is not your tool. It is not your threat. It is its own being." The council did not know how to respond. They had spent centuries fearing dragons. They had expected a monster. They had found a child. A young, intelligent creature capable of understanding humans, capable of choice, capable of trust. And standing beside it was one human who refused to step aside. One human who had spoken the words it needed to survive. Slowly the scientists observed. They noticed its calm breathing, its controlled movements, its responsiveness to Arlen's voice. They ran tests, not invasive ones, only observations, and discovered what Arlen had already known. This dragon was not dangerous because it had not been taught to fear, and it had been taught to trust. The council began to whisper among themselves. Laws had been written for centuries. Dragons were to be eradicated. But how could they justify punishment for a creature that did not attack, that did not threaten, that had shown mercy? More importantly, how could they punish the human who had done nothing wrong but care? Arlen knelt beside the dragon again. "You see," he whispered. "They are learning too. They will understand." The dragon blinked slowly, golden eyes catching the station light. Its small wings twitched once, not in fear but in acknowledgement. It understood. News slowly spread through the station and beyond. Reports were cautious at first. A human had been seen with a dragon. A forbidden species, believed extinct. Observers feared this could be a threat. But the dragon's calm presence, its gentle responses and Arlen's courage told a different story. Other humans, inspired, began to speak up. If one human could show that dragons could be taught, that fear was not always the answer, then maybe others could try too. Slowly the narrative changed. Dragons were no longer only weapons or monsters. They became beings that could be guided, nurtured, and understood. Arlen spent weeks teaching the dragon, and each day it grew stronger. It learned to flap its wings, first in short bursts, then longer. It learned to respond to his voice from farther away. It learned that patience brought safety and trust brought strength. The bond between them became unbreakable. They were not master and creature. They were companions, friends, allies. Finally, the council called a formal meeting. Arlen stood with the dragon beside him. He spoke clearly, simply, and with conviction. "This dragon is alive," he said. "It is not a weapon. It is not a tool of fear. It is a being that can choose. We have been taught a lesson. Life responds to care, not domination. Trust is stronger than fear. Words are stronger than fire. And humanity can show that courage is not about destruction. It is about understanding." The council listened. The scientists nodded. Even the enforcers, those who had once raised weapons, lowered their arms. They had never expected this outcome. A human had stood alone, not because he was the strongest but because he had the courage to speak, to protect, and to believe. And that courage had changed the dragon, and perhaps one day it could change the galaxy. The dragon, small but proud, spread its wings slightly. It did not roar. It did not strike. It only stood tall beside Arlen. The room went silent. For a long moment, the galaxy's fear seemed to fade. Something new had begun. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Understanding. Cooperation. Respect. Years later, records would tell of this event. They would describe a human named Arlen Voss who had discovered a dragon baby, who had spoken the words it needed, who had taught patience and trust. They would tell how dragons returned, slowly, guided not by fear or war, but by compassion and wisdom. They would tell how humans earned a place not through dominance, but through courage that respected life. And the dragon, now fully grown but still golden-eyed and gentle, remained a symbol. A reminder that fear could be replaced with understanding, that monsters could become friends, and that even the smallest human could make a difference in a galaxy that had long forgotten hope. Arlen knelt beside the dragon one final time before leaving the upper levels. He whispered softly, "We did it. We changed the story." The dragon nudged his hand gently, a small gesture of trust and gratitude. Together they had rewritten what the galaxy remembered. Together they had shown that humanity's greatest power was not firepower, not fleets, not strength, but courage, empathy, and words that mattered. And above all, they had shown that even in a galaxy full of fear, one human and one dragon could stand alone and teach the universe a lesson it would never forget.